Today is a continuation, a part 2 of this 94 Toyota Land Cruiser that hit something very hard, extremely hard. If you didn't catch the first part, the teardown and assessment, please watch that first. We have some work ahead of us today, no short list of things to do. We need to pull the pan off of the donor engine, which happens to be the engine out of my own LX450, which is now LS swapped. And we also have to fish out the broken distributor and the sheared off bolt that hold the distributor in. And then we have to make sense of the wiring, which we'll see how that goes. And we got to get the pan glued back on with RTV, and hopefully a little less than the previous person did. And then fill it full of oil and keep our fingers crossed. I haven't heard this thing run. I know it turns over and it has compression. It has 300,000 miles on it, so your guess is as good as mine as to whether it'll run, but I am pretty confident that we'll at least get to hear it fire up. This happens to be the original engine from my LX450. It's got 239-ish thousand miles on it, and I don't even remember if I drained it. It's been kicking around the shop here for about 3 years. We're gonna try to see if it's drained, and then we're gonna pull the lower pan for this 94 Land Cruiser. I just hope I drained it. I would have drained it, right? Well, there's some oil in it. Did I not drain this? Maybe I didn't drain this. Actually, I did drain this. It's just got some residual from sitting. I think I've only gotten like probably a third of a quart out of it. Well, this thing has stopped draining. Go ahead and put the drain plug in there. Aha. Well, that's not a good sign. This was the pan from my engine. There's a bunch of plastic bits in here. What could that be? Just gonna leave them right here for safekeeping. Go wash this thing out. I'm gonna go ahead and put this pan back on, the damaged one from the 94. Just so it stays protected, because I'm not going to tear this engine down for a while. Actually, I'd probably end up rebuilding this thing at some point. Well, I've got the pan all cleaned up. Now it's time to clean the block up so I can have a clean mating surface to mount the pan to. This has been off before, lots of black RTV and falling razor blades. All right, I've got my pan coated in some RTV. I cleaned out the pickup and I cleaned the mating surface. So now it's time to get this pan gently installed. This has been off before. You can tell by the way some of this is put together, and that's where all that RTV came from. It's a very amateur job. All right, now that the pan is done, my next focus is this distributor. So here is what's left of the distributor. Well, the rest of its guts are around here somewhere. We need to get this out, and then there's a 8mm by 125 bolt that holds the distributor on. We need to get that out, which I'll probably use my welder for. But this, before we go ahead and try to rip this thing out, which I haven't pried on or done anything with, I need to mark its position, because these don't just, this is not like it's at the end of a camshaft where it only fits one of two ways or one of one way. This fits in multiple ways. At least I remember that being the case. It has a worm gear type thing on the cam. So we're gonna mark its position on the head of where the rotor sits on so that we can get it back in the right spot the first time. So to do that, I'm just gonna use a screwdriver and kind of go, that's where the rotor sits. So we're gonna kind of make a little mark right here on the head. And then we're also gonna take a picture of it because 2 ways of recording is better than one. Now it's time we can try to get this thing out. This is either gonna be really easy or really difficult. And I think this is gonna be really difficult. The idea here is to hopefully not do any damage to this flange. Just kind of tap it out. Just give it a little tap. Oh yeah, look at that. Does this still spin? Nope. I think that shaft is bent. Yeah, that shaft is definitely bent. That's what she said. The next thing that we need to do is try to get this bolt out. And I don't know if I'm gonna have to, I don't know if it's tight or if I can maybe spin it out. Nope. Okay, I'm gonna likely have to use the welder on it. Let's get this cleaned up. I would just like you guys to know that I am not particularly good at this, but I am gonna build up the end of that bolt so that I can get a nut on there and then I can weld the nut to it. I also don't want the camera pointed directly at this thing just in case it decides to do some crazy stuff to my camera. We don't really want that. First one, not so good. That happens sometimes. I'm not quite sure if that's enough. Oh wait. Oh boy, it was ugly, but it came out. Haha. Ooh, that's warm. It's like I just welded on it. All right. Well, that's a great success. Throw it down there on the ground. This always amazes me when this works. I shouldn't be amazed because we do this on a regular basis with LS heads, but came right out. Next up, we're going to get this distributor off of the donor vehicle. This engine tossed a rod. It's totally a very neglected and abused vehicle. It's really sad, but we're going to get this distributor off and installed on the other truck. We're also going to rob some other parts off it while we're here. We also need the bolt. There's the bolt. Let's get these plug wires off of here. Remember when I said to get these plug wires off? All of these are broken. Let's just rotate this here. Okay. There we go. One distributor and our bolt that we can't lose. Set that aside. The next thing I'm going to do is start stealing some relays and fuses out of this fuse box. Before I go any further, I'm just going to pull the cap off. Now this is an OBD2 truck, this is a 96 Land Cruiser, so some things might be a little bit different, but we're going to take a picture of how everything goes, which there's really not much in here that does anything. I mean, is there ever? And then we're going to take everything out of it. And these are the relays that are missing and damaged. I don't know if I'm going to be able to get all of these out, but I surely can try. So far, so good. Should have brought some needle nose with me. Before I go much further, I'm going to go ahead and pull the rest of this windshield out of the way. This is safe. Totally safe. I do this all the time. Don't try this at home. I just don't really feel like sitting in glass? Question mark? And I don't know what to do with this once I get it out. I never thought about that. Please don't cut myself. Look at that. Wow! That was a bad idea. Sometimes I wish there was someone here to stop me from my terrible ideas. All right, let's go ahead and get this thing vacuumed out a little bit. Come on. Oh, I didn't count on this. Ha ha. That'll open. Just need to. Yeah, there's a little bit of glass in here. A lot of glass in here. That bolt in there. It's a good thing I got all these extra vehicles hanging around here. Get the rotor on. You know, I've already covered it in oil. It's fine. Just don't look there. Now it's time for the cap. So we have all of these broken plug wires, and some of them will say where they came from, but this is probably going to be the lengthiest challenge. Oh, cool. They're lettered instead of numbered. No, there's multiple E's. Couldn't have kept the original plug wires on here, could you? That would have just been too easy. Well, there's part of a cap. Yep, I'm gonna have to pull the coil cover off and take a peek myself. That wasn't too bad. So let's go with number 1. That's this one here. I guess I could put the cap on now. Yeah, I'll probably just do that first. Only bad thing is I think this can go on multiple different ways. And I didn't pay attention. It goes on that way. It goes on. Oh, Toyota's a genius. It doesn't line up. God, sometimes I don't even know what I'm doing, but Toyota knows that. And they make it to where I can't do the wrong thing. Thank you, Toyota, for knowing that I don't know what I'm doing. That plug wire is a little broken. It's fine. Now I just have 2 left. All right, time for 5. And then this must be 6. God, I love process of elimination. Now we need, there's the coil wire. I think that's in. All right. That is done. Now we just need to plug this distributor in. That's the sound. The next thing I need to do is get what's left of this cooler out of the way, so we're going to cut this line and loop it back to the other line. To take just a second. We have to do this all the time. Get this out of the way here. Wow, that took a little less force than I anticipated. Okay, well, before we do that, we gotta get this sheathing pulled back so there's room for a clamp. The whole idea here is to not make as big of a mess as I've already made. good as new. Now it's time to figure out what happened to this poor fuse box and what can we do about it. So it looks pretty not good. It's a pretty bad prognosis here, but we can get it fixed. Okay, so it looks like the terminals are pulled out of this one. So let's kind of push those back in. Kind of push those back. There we go. And then that's where the red fuse was. My brain remembers that much. There we go. Look at that. We're getting somewhere. And then there's a relay that goes there, and I bet you that's this brown one. And the terminals appear to be agreeing. And then we've got two really messed up places for relays. But I think we can do this. There's two different kinds, a 4-pin and a 3-pin. And we're just going to try stuff here. Let's do the 3-pin first. That's the easiest, even though it's annihilated. No. So we're going to have to pull the terminals out of here, and we got to keep them straight so that we don't, put them in the wrong spot and let some smoke out. Once that smoke comes out, there is no way to get it back in. And sadly, that's the smoke that makes everything work. Electronic smoke is a hot commodity. Man, this is really messed up here. Let's do a little trim in here. That didn't need to be there. I think we can salvage this one here. Yes. Okay, we just have one left. And it's pretty messed up, like the rest of the fuse box. But I think, oh yes, we are in. All right, our fuse box is put back together-ish. Yeah, it's a good looking fuse box. And then I've got a 10 that I need to ground. Where are you? There's for the battery. Let's get a good ground there on the twisted up chassis. We are making progress here. Next, we're going to finally get some oil in this thing, and no, not going to put some new oil in it. Got some oil out of my Esprit. It's good oil. Doesn't have very many miles on it. But we need to get some oil in here. This engine could still be bad. All right. Well, even after all that oil, it still needs another quart. Now we need to get this fender out of the way so I can open the driver's door. This fender is a little damaged, so we're just gonna gently kind of massage it out of the way here. Perfect. Let's go ahead and get this out of the way. Yeah, that's nice. We'll save that for later. One 10mm left. Oh, this is fun. That's gonna come off and hit me when I take this bolt out. Okay, what bolt did I just take out? Oh, there are two of them. Okay. There we go. We've got the door open a lot farther than it would before, but we're not done yet. Since this did not come with a key, we have to take the dash apart to get this to start. So the next thing we need to do is start pulling the lower dash panels. I think there's some 10s and some Phillips and some other fasteners probably. I don't know what that is, so let's try it with this. There we go. There's another Phillips here. And one more right here that I should have taken out before. Okay, that's out of the way enough. And then we're just going to gently Ow, remove that. Didn't feel good. And we need to get to the back of the ignition. There's at least one Phillips screw. Sorry about the background noise, guys. Busy day here. I have to go entirely by feel. And bam! It's like I've done this before. And now we can turn the ignition with the screwdriver. Alright, I've got my jump box here. We're going to hook power up to it and see if any of that special smoke comes out. I don't think it will, but it could. I guess I should have a fire extinguisher handy. I think enough times. But I don't see any smoke, so that's a good sign. Let's go and see if we can key on, see what kind of light and warning lights we have. Well, we have our door open warning light, and the ignition is illuminated, so that's good. Let's see if I can get my screwdriver down here. I don't know if I can. Oh, look at that. We have check engine, which is good. That means that the computer has power, otherwise that light wouldn't be on. So let's try to give it a first crank here. Okay. Let's see if this will work. Please start. Please don't catch fire. Oh, nothing happened. Oh, come on, what's happening? Okay, maybe it needs to be in park. Let's try that. Oh, it cranks, so that's good. Let's see what's going on here. Well, it's not spraying fluid anywhere. Although I do smell hot stuff. That is not a good sign. What is hot? Where is the hotness coming from? Well, I did find something unplugged. It looks like this ground is broken, so we're gonna plug that in. There we go. I also found something else. This is the fuel pump relay. What is left of the fuel pump relay? None of the wires look broken, but it also might have broken wires. I can't really tell. But we're gonna try it now that I've done one thing, and then we'll move to this next. Okay, that did not work. Well, I'm inclined to believe the fuel pump is working because there is raw fuel dropping down onto the control arm from this area. So I bet you something is not so happy. Well, I'm going to take a moment and gut all of this stuff out of this area. I got to get the charcoal canister out, the ABS pump out of the way. I can see some pinched fuel lines, which are bad, and figure out what other damage there is. Well, I need to pull part of the body away that's in the way. So I'm going to use my hustler stick here on the tire. We'll see if this does anything. Well, that didn't do what I wanted it to do. Yeah, now we got it. Oh, it's a little better. Alright, we're trying to get the bolts out of the ABS pump right now. Varying degrees of difficulty here. This isn't that fun when the vehicle isn't compacted. It's a lot less fun now, but it's alright. It's still fine. And hopefully move some of this stuff out of the way. There we are. Oh boy. Well, we have some repair to do. Oh boy, do we have some repair to do. Here are the fuel lines, and this is the return line here, and it is split wide open. And also smashed. You can see the metal is totally smashed. The feed line doesn't look smashed. I've rerouted the fuel feed and I fixed the end of the fuel return. Here is the line I pulled off. That's not gonna be okay. And now it's time to see if this thing starts again. I also did a little more harness repair right here. This is, I don't know if that matters. We're gonna find out if she'll start now. All right, now we're going to check this for spark. Now that I got this to turn over the correct way. Turns out I was not using the ignition switch correctly. Well, we have spark, so that's good. We're gonna pull this breather off and give it a little go juice. And we'll see if she runs. No dice. So we have spark. We just gave it a bunch of fuel. All right, so that is not the problem. Could be a timing thing. Maybe I have the distributor one tooth off. It does not seem happy to me. I gave it fuel, we checked for spark. It clearly has compression. What is left? Well, it's timing. Clearly it's timing. So I've taken the bolt out of the distributor and rotated it a whole bunch so that it's out of its normal range. Maybe I put that in the wrong slot. It's totally possible. Oh, we're doing stuff now. Oh, we are close. Now I'm going to pull number one spark plug out. Put the engine at top dead center, and then I'll turn the distributor accordingly. Oh, we're gonna play that game. Come here, spark plug. Do it this way. Let's see, what do we got in here? It's got iridiums in it. They're wet. Gas smells foul. So now I'm going to turn the engine over to where that is as high as it'll go. That'll be top dead center. I don't really want to turn this engine over backwards, so. All right, that's TDC. Now we're going to pull the cap off. And there's our rotor. So now we need to figure out where number one is. If it's like this, and number one is right at the start of the connector. It's right here. So we are way off. Samsonite. We were way off. We were way off, like Samsonite off. That's pretty close. I think we're going to run with that. I don't really know where I put the bolt for the distributor, but that's a later problem. Zip this back down. We'll put our plug back in. And we'll give it a whirl. Okay, let's put that right about there. So I've done this again. I turned the engine to where it was located TDC on the timing cover instead of pulling the plug. I usually like pulling the plug. And then I turned the distributor again. I pulled this back apart to where I was facing number one, and we're going to give this another shot. I really have no idea what's going to happen, but let's give it a whirl. Oh, something's unhappy. The gas pedal doesn't want to return. Oh, it runs. Fantastic. That is just music to my Toyota ears. Can't let it run too long with no coolant. Power steering pump's pissed. It's all pissed, but it's running. It's got a good idle. Remember, I can't turn the steering wheel because I don't have the ignition lock undone. I just have the switch off the back of it. But it runs, and it runs good. This is fantastic. I'm most surprised that this fuel pump relay still works. It's clearly been exposed to the elements, but hey, it works. I am pretty surprised, but once I dug into this, I figured that this would run. It would just take a little bit of work. I could say this happened every single time, but it doesn't. About 2/3 of the time you get lucky and you spend half a day working on an engine and it runs fantastic like this Land Cruiser. And then that other third, that comes and bites you pretty hard. You get something running and it's got low compression in 1 or 2 cylinders, or it's got rod knock, it pushes coolant out. I mean, the list is endless as to what could be wrong with these engines. You guys have seen that with the teardowns. But this time we got lucky. It didn't require a ton of work. I mean, it wasn't super easy, but it was the hardest thing we've ever had to do. I've had to put intake manifolds on cars and valve covers and timing covers, and I mean, the list is just... I will do what it takes to stand behind an engine if it's worth it. Of course, my $200 and $300 engines, if they come in and they're damaged pretty badly, I don't go through the work. We just core those out, or I'll do a teardown video on them. But I'm glad you guys could take a peek into what the day-to-day activity is here. I don't always get to do this task. I usually have some of my employees do that, but I wanted to jump in on this one and show you guys how we do that, especially being a Land Cruiser. I've got experience in that, and I had a lot of fun. It's always like one of the most fun aspects of this job, and I'll probably end up doing another when the right car comes in. So I guess I'll catch you on the next one.